Mariam was an epitome of elegance and poise. As a wife of a pastor, she was revered and admired by all the women in her church and community. Her husband, Pastor Daniel, was a highly respected man of God who was the general overseer of one of the mega churches in the country. Mariam's beauty was undeniable. She was blessed with smooth dark skin, almond-shaped eyes, and a smile that could light up a room. She always carried herself with grace, always dressed in modest and stunning outfit, befitting for the wife of a man of God. Not only was she a role model for the women in her church and community, she also played a significant role in her husband's ministry. Mariam often stood in for her husband, preaching powerful sermons that left the congregation in awe whenever her husband was not around. Her influence stretched beyond the walls of her church as she represented Pastor Daniel at various Christian gatherings and conferences. However, behind this godly image, Mariam was living with a secret, a dark part of her life she always thought that she could suppress. A desire she had harbored since she was a child. She was attracted to women, a secret she thought she could overcome by marrying a pastor. She was introduced to this at a very young age by her nanny. Mariam was an only child. Both of her parents were high-ranking government officials who were too preoccupied with their careers to pay so much attention to her. She was left in the care of her nanny, a woman who had a different kind of affection for the young girl. What started as an innocent affection from her nanny turned into something much more. Mariam was introduced to a feeling she did not understand, and over time, she became so accustomed to the attention. As Mariam grew older, these feelings grew with her. She had several relationships with only women until she met Daniel. Mariam believed that marrying a pastor would help her overcome the feelings she had for her fellow women. She thought that the love and sanctity of marriage would cleanse her from the desire she had learned to suppress. However, she was wrong because she never felt anything for her husband beyond admiration. Each time she was making out with her husband, she found herself imagining and fantasizing about the face of another woman.
For years, Mariam surpassed her urge. She prayed fervently and fasted, hoping that God would remove the burden of her desires, yet the longing never left her. She became a master of hiding her feelings, continuing to be the perfect pastor's wife in the public, while battling an inner war in private.
Mariam remained faithful to her husband. Also, it appears her eyes never wandered towards another man, but her heart always longed for a warmth and touch of a woman. Every day in her life was a constant battle, but she remained resolute until one fateful day, Mariam traveled with her female personal assistant called Stella and the church male driver to attend a church conference in another town. Mariam delivered a very powerful sermon in the conference to the admiration of everyone present. So after a long day of service and meeting, they headed to the hotel where they were supposed to spend the night. When they arrived, the hotel manager informed them that only 2 rooms were available, and without hesitation, Mariam asked the driver to take one of the rooms while she shared the other with Stella. This plan seemed innocent enough because Stella had always been by her side, and they had always had a sister relationship for years. As they settled in, Mariam's phone rang. It was her husband, Pastor Daniel, who was calling. He was calling to check up on her. Mariam stepped outside to answer the call. As she spoke with him, she smiled and reassured him that everything was fine. They exchanged loving words before she returned to her room. When Mariam ended the call, she headed back to the hotel room. But when she opened the door, she was met with an unexpected sight. Stella was standing in front of the mirror, and she was undressing. Mariam froze, Her eyes were locked on Stella's smooth and delicate skin. She tried to avert her gaze, but it was too late because Stella had already seen her lusting after her body from the mirror. "Do you like what you see?" Stella asked in a soft and teasy tone, catching Mariam completely off guard. Grace stammered, what are you talking about?" she asked, but Stella moved closer. This time her eyes were looking seductively into Mariam. "I saw how you were looking at me. Do you want to taste? It is soft, succulent and juicy," she said in the most inviting voice. Of this right now, Mariam's voice trembled as she tried to regain control. She could felt the word. All of her restraint crumbled, but she couldn't let this happen. She is a pastor's wife, she thought to herself, but Stella was relentlessly. She leaned in and kissed Mariam gently on the lips, and in that moment, years of suppressed desire exploded within her. Mariam lost all control, and they found themselves entangled, lips locked in a passionate embrace, and for the first time in years, Mariam felt alive again. From that day on, Mariam's relationship with Stella changed. They began meeting in secret, finding every opportunity to be alone together. They would meet in secluded spots after church events, finding silence in each other's arms. The thrill of the forbidden affair consumed Mariam, and for the first time in life, she was truly happy. One of the times, they met up in a small park near the church, sitting in secret places. As they embraced, the cool evening breeze swept through their hair, but Mariam's heart raced with heat. The next meeting was at a church guest house after an outreach event where they spent the night together, wrapped in each other's arms. Another meeting took place during the women's fellowship retreat, where they sneaked out in the middle of the night to the toilet. They turned on the shower and the water dripped on them as they shared their secret moments. Every meeting made Grace more addicted and more trapped in the web. She knew she could never escape. One weekend, as Mariam's birthday was approaching, her husband, Pastor Daniel, wanted it to be a grand celebration. He instructed Stella to assist in preparation for the event, so Stella was asked to come over to the house. The weekend was set and the house was filled with activities that night. As everyone retired to their rooms, Mariam sneaked out of her matrimonial bed and tiptoed to the guest room where Stella was staying. Stella was awake and waiting. As soon as Mariam entered, Stella smiled, her eyes light up. "I knew you would come," she whispered. Then Mariam sighed and said, "Please, this is not why I'm here. Stella, we need to be very careful this weekend," she said softly. "No one should find out about us," she cautioned. Then she turned to make her way to leave. But as Mariam turned to leave, Stella grabbed her hand and pulled her in for a deep kiss. Mariam couldn't resist. She melted into Stella's hands, and soon they were lost in each other's embrace once again. In the quiet of the night, Pastor Daniel woke up and reached out for his wife, but she wasn't there. There was a frown and he sat up calling her name softly, but there was no response. He got out of the bed, checked the bathroom, checked the kitchen, and even the sitting room, yet Mariam was nowhere to be found. As he passed the guest room where Stella was staying, he heard some noise coming from the room. Then curiosity got a better part of him. He noticed that the door was slightly open. He peeped, but what he saw sank his heart. He pushed the door open and was met with a sight that shocked his soul. There in the dim light of the room was his wife, entangled with her personal assistant. "Grace," his voice boomed, shaking the walls. of the room, but Mariam and Stella scrambled out of the bed. Their faces were pale with shock. Stella hurriedly grabbed her cloth and headed out of the room, leaving Mariam standing there trembling. Pastor Daniel stood in the doorway. His chest was heavy with anger and disbelief. Mariam, what is this? His voice was low but filled with fury. His eyes widened in horror. Mariam panicked and was ashamed. She quickly dressed up and fell to her knees. Honey, please, I can explain. Please listen to me, honey. Please, I can explain. Explain what? Pastor Daniel's voice cracked with pain. How long have you been committing this abomination under my roof, in my own home, Mariam? How long has this been going on? He asked. Tears streamed down Mariam's face as she said, I am so sorry. Please forgive me. I never wanted to hurt you. Her husband glared at her. His face clenched. I mean, how long, Mariam? Answer me. Mariam swallowed hard, her voice barely a whisper. It started a few months ago with Stella. But it's something I've struggled with since I was a child. The pastor's eyes widened even in disbelief. Since you were young? What do you mean? He asked. Mariam took a deep breath, knowing she had to confess everything if she had any hope of being forgiven. My parents were always busy, so I was raised by a nanny. She was the one that introduced me to this art. These desires, I had carried them with me ever since I thought that marrying you would help me, but I couldn't stop it. Please have mercy and forgive me. Pastor Daniel's face twisted with disgust. And you have been living a lie all this while? Mariam, preaching in my own church, representing me while bearing such a dark secret. I trusted you, Mariam. I made you the mother of my home. And this is what you have done. He asked. Mariam crawled towards him, her hands clutching his legs as she says, I am begging you, please don't expose me. Please help me. Keep this secret, Mariam begged, but Pastor Daniel pulled away from her, grabbed, shaking his head. I can't even look at you right now. Mariam, I can't believe you destroyed everything. You've built our marriage, our home, even my ministry. What will people say if this gets out? Mariam, he asked. Mariam has shown the shame, the guilt. It was all crushing down on her. But more than anything, she feared losing her family, her children, and her husband's love. Pastor Daniel paced around the room. His mind was racing. Do you know what would happen if people find out about it? This your reputation, your life will be ruined. Mariam, everything you've built will be ruined. Mariam, he said. Mariam sobbed louder. Please, I will do anything to fix this. Please don't expose me. Please, I love you, my husband, she begged. But her husband's face was hard. His heart simply closed off to her. Please, love me. You don't even know what love is, Mariam. You have been keeping such a dark secret from me, and now you expect me to just forgive and forget? He asked. I do love you. I do. I was just lost. I was confused. Mariam cried. Pastor Daniel shook his head in disgust. I am taking my kids and we are leaving this house. I will expose you to the world. I will let them know the real you. You don't deserve to be a mother to my children. Mariam's entire body shook as he clinched to his feet, tears streaming down her face. No, please, my love, don't take my children. Please, I will do anything. Just give me a chance to make things right, she said. Pastor Daniel turned and stopped for a moment, looking down at his wife with a mix of fury and sorrow. How can I ever trust you again, Mariam? You have shattered everything you have built. He acts angrily. I will step down from everything, from the church, from the women's ministry, everything I will do. Whatever it takes to end your forgiveness. Mariam begged her husband, voice trembling for a moment. Silence filled the room. Pastor Daniel stared at his wife. His mind turned between anger, betrayal, and the vows that they have made. Mariam collapsed in the floor, sobbing uncontrollably, unsure if she would ever be forgiven by her husband. Will Pastor Daniel ever forgive her, or will he go ahead and expose her? Let's find out in the next episode. Hello, thank you so much for staying right to this end. I hope you enjoyed the story. Kindly subscribe to this channel if you've not, and please put on the notification bell icon so that you will be the first to know immediately the next episode is posted. And don't forget to comment, like, and share this video. Thank you so much. Please don't leave without subscribing until our next episode. Bye bye and God bless you. Please subscribe. Thank you.